Okay, so Teddi Mellencamp has been quite vocal recently, hasn't she? Talking about her Real Housewives exit and, well, some pretty heavy personal things, too.
Yeah, definitely. She's really opened up. Regarding the show, she seems pretty convinced about why she was let go.
Right. She thinks it all goes back to season 2.
Exactly. To Puppygate, the whole drama with Dorit Kemsley, the dog, Lisa Vanderpump.
Oh, yeah. Hard to forget that one. Teddi got tangled up in that whole leaked story part of it.
Mm-hmm. And she basically said she thinks she actually lost her job because of her role in that whole thing back then in season 2.
Even though she stayed for season 3. That's interesting.
Yeah, she feels they just kind of kept her around for that last season, but the decision was already made.
And how did she describe that 3rd season?
She called herself a nothing burger.
Wow, so she felt totally sidelined.
Pretty much. Like, she didn't have a real storyline after all the Puppygate fallout.
Yeah.
She sees a direct link between that conflict and getting fired later.
It kind of makes sense in a way. The show moves on, but maybe production holds on to those things longer.
Could be. Like a delayed reaction.
Yeah.
The effects aren't always immediate for the viewers to see.
And then there was that other story she shared. Completely different vibe.
Oh, right. The wildest hookup anecdote.
Yeah, where she apparently had while another couple was in the same bed.
Because they had nowhere else to go. Definitely an unexpected share. Next update we have about Brittany Cartwright's life after splitting from Jax Taylor.
Right, she seems to be moving on. Reports say she's casually dating a musician, Will Gittens.
Apparently, Brittany and another castmate went to his concert, and there was a video from an after-party on Instagram showing them interacting. Plus, the usual social media stuff, following each other, liking posts.
Social media tea leaves, right. Always fuels the speculation. And having a castmate there suggests it's not totally hidden, maybe some mutual friends involved.
Brittany sort of hinted about a new guy on Lala Kent's podcast, too.
Oh, yeah. How did Lala react?
Very positively.
Yeah.
Lala even shared some funny stories, something about a shower slip.
Okay.
And then Brittany flat out confirmed on the Nikki and Brie show that, yeah, she's started dating again. She said feeling attractive again really boosted her confidence.
That makes sense.
Especially after feeling kind of neglected in the marriage for a while.
Yeah, that's very relatable. Good for her for finding that confidence boost.
But then you get the conflicting story. An insider claims she's actually not dating anyone and Will is just a friend.
Ugh, happens all the time with celebs. You never quite know who has the real story or if different people are just interpreting things differently. Have to take it with a grain of salt.
Definitely. Nia Booko's been dealing with claims that she and Danny are fake.
Fake? How so?
That they're hiding marriage problems, basically putting on a front for the cameras.
Well, that's almost an occupational hazard on reality TV, isn't it?
Nia's explanation is that they choose to handle their issues privately.
Yeah.
Talk it out, maybe go to therapy, not blast each other in front of friends or on camera.
Okay, a more private approach.
Danny backed her up, even called some of the other couples on the show toxic. He also pointed out they were vulnerable earlier about Nia's postpartum struggles.
So they're contrasting their style with others, defending their privacy, maybe, or genuinely seeing other dynamics as unhealthy.
But not everyone's buying it. Janet Caperna basically said, hey, Nia critiques our relationships, so hers should be open for discussion too.
Fair point, maybe, if you dish it out.
And Brittany Cartwright agreed. She mentioned seeing Nia and Danny kind of shut down arguments when the cameras appeared. Sheena Shea chimed in too, drawing a parallel to her own past with Mike Shea.
Oh, right.
She said she used to cover things up for him and tried to protect him, but it didn't end well.
That's a cautionary tale, isn't it? Trying to hide problems can sometimes backfire, make things look less authentic, or even worse down the line.
Kristen Dowd had an interesting take. She thought Brittany's view might be colored by her own experiences with Jax.
How so?
Remembering how Jax used to blame Brittany's drinking on stress. And Danny then jumped in, saying Jax constantly threw Brittany under the bus about her drinking.
Kristen suggesting Brittany's lens is influenced by Jax. That makes sense. And Danny piling on about Jax reinforces that history.
And a recent episode of The Valley just piled on more drama.
Oh, do tell.
Okay, so Jasmine was still mad at Danny about his Halloween comments. Zach said things are going well with Benji. Nia and Michelle talked about Jasmine's reaction, and Michelle gave her thoughts on Jesse. Then Jason, Luke, and Danny met up, and Jason questioned Danny's sobriety during a past trip, which kicked off a fight.
Uh-oh. So ongoing tension there, resurfacing old issues.
Meanwhile, Jax did a video diary talking about rehab and seeing his son cruise.
Okay. Trying to show progress, maybe.
But then Brittany finds out Jax has been spying on her using their home security cameras.
Whoa, what? That's not okay.
Seriously. And he's planning to move into a condo next to Tom Schwartz while they still share a mortgage.
Wow. Okay, that's a huge breach of trust with the cameras. And the financial stuff on top of it. Major complications for their separation.
So then Danny apologizes again to Melissa and Jasmine for Halloween. Jesse hangs with Luke and Kristen drops a rumor that Jason isn't wearing his wedding ring.
More fuel on the fire.
Then Lala and Sheena confront Jesse about how he's been treating Michelle. Jason apologizes to Danny for being harsh earlier. And then the big one. Brittany tells the group Jax isn't paying the mortgage and is moving out. That was apparently the tipping point for her deciding to file for divorce.
Sounds like it.
And then at Jax's bar, Brittany tells Jasmine and Schwartz the full extent of the unpaid mortgage and declares it's completely over.
Wow. Public declaration at his own bar. That's intense.
Next update we have involves Summer House, specifically Lexi Wood talking about Jesse Solomon.
Okay, what's her side of things?
She's claiming Jesse would sort of punish her if she tried to slow down their relationship.
Punish her?
Allegedly, by talking negatively about her to other people behind her back. Like retaliation.
That sounds manipulative. Using gossip as a weapon when he doesn't get his way. That's a serious claim.
She also said he needed her around constantly, even when they weren't filming, and resisted when she tried to set boundaries.
Controlling behavior, potentially? Resisting boundaries is a red flag.
And she mentioned not trusting him because she claims he talked badly about the entire cast and even production when the cameras were off.
Ooh, that would definitely destroy a trust, not just with her, but potentially with everyone if it got out.
All right, let's switch gears to the Real Housewives of New Jersey. Lauren Manzo responded to some online chatter.
Oh, what about?
Basically, a fan commented suggesting her parents, Caroline and Albert, pay for everything for her.
Ooh, the assumptions that come with having wealthy or well-known parents. That's pretty common speculation.
Lauren shut that down pretty quickly. She stated she pays her own mortgage.
Okay.
Said her mom might treat her to dinner sometimes, but that's about it. She also made it clear she doesn't work at the Brownstone anymore.
Good for her for clarifying.
And she talked about her own business, her salon, full-blown blowout and beauty lounge, saying it's successful, plus she earns money from social media.
Right, emphasizing her independence and her own income streams. It pushes back against that narrative that she's just relying on family money.
Now, sticking with Jersey, but a much heavier topic, Lexi Ioannou.
Dina Manzo's daughter. Right, this relates to Tommy Manzo.
Exactly. It's about her reaction to Dolores Catania writing that character letter for Tommy, Lexi's stepfather.
Who was convicted for arranging the attack on Dina and Dave Canton.
Lexi described it as layers of pain, not just from Dolores, but other family members supporting Tommy.
I can only imagine. When legal battles split families, the loyalties and fallout are just devastating.
She talked about how close she used to be with Caroline Manzo and her kids, Albie, Lauren, Chris, especially after her parents divorced.
Right.
And now, because of this whole conflict around Tommy, she feels she's suffered a massive loss of those relationships.
That's heartbreaking. Family bonds fracturing over something like this.
Yeah.
It shows the really deep personal cost involved, far beyond the legal stuff, the choices people felt they had to make.
Lexi also shared a story about trying to get her personal items back from Tommy's house after he was sentenced.
Oh, wow. How did that go?
Not well, apparently. She was really disappointed, felt she got very little help from her Manzo cousins. She mentioned a garage sale where sentimental things, family heirlooms, were being sold off.
Oh, no, things with personal history just being sold.
Yeah, and she was really frustrated, felt like her cousins chose to prioritize their own peace, maybe avoid more drama, instead of helping her recover meaningful items.
That's rough.
Gia Giudice also weighed in briefly, recalling how upset her mom, Teresa, was about the attack on Dina and Dave. Gia also pointed out how weird the attack was, like nothing valuable was taken except Dina's engagement ring.
Right, that detail always stood out. It seemed targeted, personal, not just a random robbery, which makes the whole thing even more disturbing.
Lexi did mention having had some positive talks with Lauren Manzo in the past, sharing sadness about the rift, but she's still angry at Tommy's people for selling her stuff.
Understandable anger and sadness that the connection with Lauren is strained.
The whole thing also brought up how RHONJ itself impacted Dina's relationships with Caroline and Jacqueline Loretta way back when.
True, the show itself has often been a catalyst or amplifier for family drama in that circle.
And Gia offered a thought about family dynamics on reality TV, generally how competitive it can get, wishing her own family could focus on building an empire together instead.
That's an interesting perspective from someone who grew up in it. The pressure, the competition versus potential unity, it really speaks to the broader challenges these families face under the microscope.
Okay. Okay, next update we have about Atlanta. There's this situation brewing with Angela Oakley and Shamea Morton. Angela's basically accused Shamea of, well, strategically using her friendship with Porsha Williams just to get a spot on the show.
That's a heavy accusation, calling her calculated, even envious of Porsha's platform.
Yeah. Shamea, understandably, got pretty emotional about it. She insisted she's always backed Porsha up and felt, well, hurt that their friendship was dragged out publicly like this.
That makes sense. Having a private bond suddenly dissected by everyone.
Yeah.
That would sting.
She even said other people had told her Porsha wasn't always, the best friend to her.
Oh, interesting. So bringing in outside perspectives on Porsha's behavior, too, that adds a whole other dimension.
But Porsha's take is different. She thinks the other women were deliberately trying to stir things up between them.
The classic they're trying to pit us against each other angle.
Yeah, she said she just wanted to celebrate Shamea joining the cast.
It could be genuine, or it could be a way to deflect. On these shows, creating drama is often part of the game for some.
And Shamea also made a point of saying she was happy with her life before the show, didn't need it, but she thought their friendship could be, like, a positive thing for people to see.
Well, if that's true, then being called calculated must feel like a real betrayal of the friendship itself, not just about the show. It suggests she hoped for something authentic, even in that setting.
Okay, and the final big piece of news we're covering. President Trump has pardoned Todd and Julie Chrisley.
Wow, okay. That's huge news for them. Following their convictions for bank fraud and tax evasion?
Yeah, a full pardon. It came via a direct call from President Trump to their daughter, Savannah.
A personal call.
Apparently so. The report mentions Savannah and her brother Grayson were obviously very emotional hearing the news.
I bet, after everything they've been through.
President Trump apparently commented that he felt the Chrisleys received pretty harsh treatment.
Okay, so giving his reasoning there. Pardons are a significant use of executive power. Always interesting to see the justification.
We got some details from the Bureau of Prisons about the release process timeline. Todd was in Florida, Julie in Kentucky at a medical center.
Right.
And, they already had another reality show lined up with Lifetime. It was even supposed to include phone calls from prison.
So their story was set to continue, even behind bars. The public interest is clearly still there. This pardon obviously changes the narrative completely.
Savannah posted on social media, celebrating, thanking President Trump, talking about her parents coming home.
A massive life-altering event for that family. It closes one chapter and opens a completely new, unexpected one.
So if you want to keep up with all this, make sure you subscribe to Real Tea TV.
Yeah, and hit that bell icon. You don't want to miss our next breakdown.
Thank you for watching this video. See you tomorrow.